brought to you by Bethel School of Technology. Learn more at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman.
As far as the AI is concerned, how do we get 1,000 candidates down to 15 or 20 that are actually reasonably fit for the role? And so they do use keywords on some level, but not as much as people think. We would actually, and that's 750 candidates that I was referring to, my recruiting teams went through each candidate looking for it. Now, there is kick-out questions. So the kick-out question might be, are you legally eligible to work in the country without sponsorship? Or are you at least 18 years of age? In that case, the ATS systems, the applicant tracking systems, are automatically filtering those people out. You get an automatic rejection. If you get rejected based on you submitted an application, you've met all the basic requirements, and you get an auto reject, it's almost certainly because a recruiter has programmed something into the system to auto reject you. It's not the AI that is self-aware. I mean, if AI ever becomes self-aware, right? Lord help us all.
Yeah. Let's go find a bunker.
But the fact of the matter is that these tools are, I think people, this is going to be probably controversial, but I think people conveniently let that be an excuse for why they're not truly reflecting on themselves and,
I agree with that.
And looking at their resume and saying, okay, if I have the experience that the job is calling for and I'm getting auto rejected consistently, is my resume, is my hiring it's even beyond resume. It's like, is my hiring presentation truly showing my fit for the role?
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of timing associated with it. Once recruiters will get our job, when we get a job in, you got to keep in mind, an average corporate recruiter is probably working on 15 or 20 different jobs at the same time. And as soon as they get a new job assigned to them, their goal is, because they have time to fill metrics, that's how they keep their job. So they've got to get candidates into the process as quickly as they can. So they're going to screen through. They're going to try to get 5 submitted candidates. If you're the hiring manager, I'm going to submit 5 candidates to you as quickly as I can.
Okay.
Then I'm going to go on to my next job. So all the candidates, once I hit my 5, all of the candidates who come in beyond that are just sitting in limbo.
Yeah.
They're not even being looked at.
Right.
So they sit in limbo. Then I'm going on to this job. Now, if these 5 candidates get rejected for whatever reason by the hiring manager, then I'll go back and revisit the rec.
Right.
But there's another added component here that people don't realize. If I sat around waiting for people, because I'm getting everybody shooting their proverbial shot,
right?
If I'm waiting around for that job posting to collect resumes and like praying that there's a candidate come in, I'm not going to keep my job as a recruiter for very long, because I might go through 100 applications and only find one.
Right.
But I need to screen them. I need to make sure that our compensation expectations consistent. Do you actually fit the job requirements? Are you able to be located where the job is? There's a lot of reasons why people might get rejected. And if you don't work out, I might need to have 2 candidates for every one, or maybe even 5 candidates for every one I submit to the hiring manager. So I'm going to go off and source my own candidates at the same time. So not only are you up against that competition of the 1,000 people that apply, but the recruiter is also going off and finding their own candidates.
This is really good. I love that you just unpacked that, because I'm gonna put something that I've said, and I'm gonna call it a common sense solution. And this could be fun. Brian may smack this. We'll see what he says. But I wrote an entire book called The Proximity Principle on this idea that all those things being true that you just said, the difference maker still is who you know. And you got it, just as the recruiter is out there doing their proactive strategy that you just laid out so well, I'm saying you gotta apply, and you gotta go through the system. But man, you're trying to find somebody that you know in that building who, if just nothing else, will agree to walk your resume into the hiring manager and go, hey, my friend Ken, I know him. Here's how I know him. I say a couple things about me that are nice, and just say he's already in the system, but I'm bringing the resume by, and it's nothing more than a personal touch. Is that archaic? Is that a waste of time? You can be honest. I'm holding my arms up. Take a shot.
No, that's 100% accurate. That's the very best. So
it's the game changer.
So here's the hierarchy of finding a job.
Okay.
The first in the pole position candidate is going to be the internal applicant.
Right.
If you're an internal applicant, you automatically move to the front of the line. That doesn't mean you're automatically going to get hired, but it means that you're going to at least be considered.
That's right.
Every company I've ever worked at, I've worked for huge companies that everybody knows. I've worked for very small companies. Every single company I've ever worked for, the internal applicant always gets preferential treatment as far as we're going to at least interview you.
I agree with that.
So, and that's how it should be.
I think it's exactly right.
And in
we
fact,
already know that they're not a derelict, that they fit, so we're going to give them a shot.
Yeah, and in fact, if I've ever whenever I've lost a job personally, or I've recruited a job where an internal applicant comes in at the 11th hour, yeah, it's frustrating as a job seeker, but it's also a corporate culture that I want to work for. I want the ability. If I was the internal employee, I want the ability, especially when that internal. You don't even have to be the most qualified candidate. They'll take, if you have good equity inside of your organization, you can oftentimes your resume will not be the strongest resume that's in front of the hiring manager. I guarantee it. But because they know you as a known commodity, they'll take a risk on you. They'll say, we know this person.
That's just wisdom.
Yeah. So internal applicants, number one.
Okay.
The second one is employee referral. That's the second in hierarchy, and it's a near second. So if you can find somebody to submit you as an employer referral, that's the second best way to get a job or get your foot in the door. Because just like, if you go in and you suggest, hey, I'm gonna, this is a guy that I'm gonna put my name on. Now it's like you're stamping it as, if Ken says it's okay, then it's okay. Then this guy's okay. So then after that, then it would be sourced candidates. So that means candidates that I, the recruiter, go off and find, because I'm typing in the keywords in LinkedIn and finding the candidates that have those things. That's why optimized profiles are really important. Right. And then sourced or recruit or inbound applications. Sure. The candidates who apply for jobs are, I hate to say, at the bottom of the barrel.
Well, I think that's I think you're absolutely right. I think it's important we need to understand that. So a lot of people are feeling like, Brian, that they're active. I send in 30 applications a day. But if you're doing it that way only, you are bottom of the totem pole.
Applying for jobs is the single hardest way to get a job. And the ironic part about it is, is that's what 99% of people do 99% of the time in their job search.
Right. Yeah.
But then there's this, how do you
might as well buy a lottery ticket while you're at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? I mean, you might as well, especially when you're, when you're applying. I mean, I saw this one job posting, and it was probably a couple years ago at the heyday of the job market for the job seeker, and it had like 20,000 applicants on LinkedIn. When you go in now, there's a little bit of a misleading number there, because that's just the number of people that click on the job posting, and even if they don't
20,000 applicants.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, at that point, how do you even stand out? So if you can find a way to become an employer referral, that's obviously the very best way. So that's where the networking becomes so important.
Launch your tech career today at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman.